Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. First of all, as you can see, obviously a very different background. Now, you might have heard the last few streams that I am moving house. I did. This is not the new house. I just don't have Wi-Fi yet in my new place. Hence why I'm currently at my parents' house in my brother's setup. So everything looks a bit strange. No Chelsea background, a microwave in the background. It's a bit strange. It's just going to be for today or tomorrow. Internet should be sorted by the time, well, we next stream next week. So hopefully that should be fixed. No, this is not the new flat. I'm just in my parents' house, but I don't have Wi-Fi in my new house yet. The background in the new house will look pretty much the same as it did in the old flat. So you'll find out about all of that very soon. You will also see Charlie join us very, very soon. Is the camera a bit wonky? I don't know. Actually, turns out Charlie has already joined us. See, the weird thing is now my camera is way higher than the laptop, so I'm constantly looking down, so I didn't even see Charlie was there. Charlie, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. I just told the viewers I have moved, but this is not my new place. I don't have Wi-Fi at home yet. That's why I'm at my parents' house right now for this stream. Charlie, thank you for coming on. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you might have seen that I complain a lot at the moment. Charlie might have seen it. Other people might have seen it. Some people abuse me for it. Some people say I'm all sorts of nasty things. Some people back it, but I think we need to have a conversation because I'm very happy for someone to turn me positive again. And if you think back to about a year ago, I was justifying a lot of the things that this ownership were doing and trying to find reason as to why it would work out in the long run. But at the moment, I'm just not really feeling it. And I don't know. I'm not even necessarily saying it's just the owner's fault or just Poch's fault or just anyone in particular's fault. And it's factually true that we are better this season than we were last season. We score more goals. We're a little bit higher in the table. Not much, mind you, but still a little bit higher in the table. I guess defensively we've gotten worse. But it's just, for me, everything just feels so... It just feels like everything's going wrong. And I know, actually, recent results haven't been that bad. Like, until, obviously, that shambolic embarrassment at Anfield. But until then, it's been quite good since we last played Wolves, really, on Christmas Eve. In that period, it's been quite good in terms of results. Not necessarily performances, but results. So, Charlie, now that you're here, how do you feel at the moment? Because you were, let's say, a year ago or even 6 months ago, one of the more positive people that I kind of conversed with on a regular basis. Where do you stand on everything that's going on right now? Because because obviously the Wi-Fi situation, it was midweek. I couldn't stream here. I couldn't stream and I had to work as well. But that Anfield, like, it just felt like everything went backwards. When you look at first game of the season against Liverpool, I know it was at home and this one was at Anfield, but compare these two games. And we've not gone one step back. We've not gone two steps back. It felt like we did a somersault backwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, and went back into, I don't know, the bloody 70s. That's what it felt like. Like, we were so bad. Obviously, it's a one-off game and we could be amazing tomorrow. But where do you stand on things at the moment? Because I just don't see a way out at the moment. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's difficult, mate. As you say, like following our defeat at Wolves on Christmas Eve, we'd won pretty much. We'd done pretty well, you know. Yes, okay, we needed a penalty to get past Fulham and West Ham, but the fact is our home form was awful, and we're now 10 unbeaten at home, which does have to be viewed as a positive. But at the same time, if you scrape it back a little bit, I know it's all about getting the points and stuff, and that's ultimately the most important thing. I said at the time after the Fulham game, like, this playing like this and getting these results is not going to be sustainable in the long run. You can't really keep getting away with it. It's all very well being able to grind results out, but eventually that will stop, and there does need to be some kind of tactical plan. There needs to be like a bit more of a clearer identity. Like, I've got no problem that we lost on Wednesday. I wasn't expecting us to win on Wednesday. That's not the issue that people have got, because going to, like, very few teams are going to go to Anfield and get anything this season. My biggest issue was how we went there and just didn't turn up, and were second best all over the field, and collectively, barring Nkunku and Chukwuemeka and maybe Gusto, everyone was shite. Like, that for me is the biggest problem, is that we turned up and we just shit ourselves, and there was no plan, there was no nothing. No one looked like they knew what they were doing. I don't say I don't care that we lost. But like, if we'd gone there and we'd lost 2-1 and we'd given a good account of ourselves, there's a very different conversation around it. Whereas I think I look at it with this, and yeah, it's hard not to feel like we've taken a massive step backwards. But it depends how you look at it. You know, yes, that was awful and unacceptable, and it was absolutely pathetic. But then, should we let that performance cloud over the fact that previously we hadn't actually lost a league game since the Wolves game. It depends. It does depend how you look at it. Look, there are big problems, and Poch, yes, is he a problem? Yes. Is he the main problem? I don't think so. Like I refuse to believe, right, that we have got bad players. These guys aren't bad players. If you look at it on an individual basis, these teams, like, you know, our players, if you compare them for players like, you know, if you look at us player for player compared to Spurs, we're probably better per se. Look at us player to player with other teams we're competing with in and around. Player for player, I think we're better than Man United. Certainly with more players than them.
Do you think that we overrate our own players? Because I actually agree with what you've just said. But then when I look at when they turn up and look at, for some of them now 6 months, for some of them now 18 months at the club, for some of them say a year, are they? Maybe they're just not as good as we think they are. Like, could that be also part of it? Because, like, you know, some people tell me I shouldn't have this much of a go at Poch, but I'm like, well, okay. If let me humor people for a second. Let's say Poch isn't that bad. Well, then who is? Because someone has got to be bad for us to be this bad. And actually, I said earlier that we were a little bit better. Since then, the chat has informed me that we're actually on the same points on 31 and the same goal difference of +1 after 22 games as we were doing last season. Now, we scored a lot more, but we conceded a lot more.
Yeah, we might be at the same place, but we can't seriously sit here and say we're not better than we were last season. Like, there's a bit of a better feel around it. We are playing better football. We're scoring more goals. Yes, we're shipping more, and we've got the same points. I mean, mate, I look at the table last night or whatever. We've only won 9 out of 22 games. That
is shocking.
I don't care how you dress that up. That's dreadful. It is dreadful. But at the same time, I do agree with what you've said. I think, and I include myself in this, start of the season, saw all the players coming in, Caicedo's and all these guys, and I'm thinking, yeah, top 4, top 5 should be doable, and was kind of blinded by the fact we're just bringing these players in. They're good players, without really thinking how this team's going to gel together and how we're going to make it a cohesive unit and whatnot. And I sort of think I had unrealistic expectations going into the season, but just because of the players we signed, the names and whatnot, and not really thinking about the practical reality of how it would actually work. But then I've looked at it and I think, right, these players right now, if we're being brutally honest, right now Chelsea at best are a Europa League team. Right now, as things stand, that's what we are. At best, we're a Europa League team. And that's the reality of the situation. And people might not like to hear that, but that's where we are right now. And look, these aren't bad players, but what I would say is that when you bank on potential, like, there's always a chance that these guys won't reach the levels you thought they were going to reach. And I think it's also fair to say that right now, the vast majority of this squad are not at the level yet that is required to perform and reach the Champions League. I think we've got good units across the pitch, you know, in terms of defensively. I think that it's good. Yeah, okay, right back's locked down if Reece James can keep himself fit. Left back is a position that needs to be strengthened. Midfield is good. It just needs work. It needs, you know, the gaps that you see between Caicedo and Enzo, that can't be coached. Something's going amiss there.
And I think, how long do you give it? Because I'd agree with you, right? Like,
the only problem is, man,
I like Enzo, I like Caicedo.
Yeah.
But how long do you give it of it not working until we're like, maybe the midfield isn't good? Like, in terms of, I'm not saying good in quality, I'm saying not fine. Obviously, we have Lavia coming back eventually, but that's banking on a, now 20-year-old that we signed at 19 and has played 42 minutes for us.
Like, what I would say,
that's ridiculous if we're banking on him to save us.
Just playing devil's advocate, right? I'm not saying I 100% think this. Do you not think it's, I don't want to say unfair, because criticism is definitely due, but do you think it's perhaps slightly fairer to give a judgment when, and we might not ever have this, but when we don't have that many injuries, when we actually have everything that we bought, or the majority of what we bought, actually available to us? How much of a better team do we think we would be, or how much fairer would it be to judge when we've seen that? I know you can only judge what you've seen, and what we've got available right now is good enough to be better than 10th place. I think I would agree with that. But I look at it, and for me, yes, the manager has to take responsibility 100%. But I'm looking at the higher ups, the sporting directors. The fact that the thing for me is, right, we were promised when these guys took over, we were promised best in class. Paul Winstanley and Laurenz Stewart are not best in class. Like you can maybe see now why Vivell left. I mean, yes, he wanted João Felix or whatever, but he didn't feel like he was being listened to. I look at Winstanley, I look at Laurenz Stewart, and I think, right, okay, these are good guys. Laurenz Stewart's worked in the Red Bull model. He'd be perfect for the multi-club model, and Winstanley would be great as a chief scout. I think he's got very good talent ID. The fact that these guys are putting a squad together, they're putting a squad together purely thinking financially, thinking like a Brighton would, like a Monaco would. Buy young players, develop them for a couple of years, sell them for a massive profit, like those sort of clubs do. Chelsea aren't that sort of club. So,
but are we even doing that? Because yes, we're buying young players that are mostly we're buying them for potential, but we're not buying them for 12, 13, 20, 25 million. Like
no, I think the market's changed.
We're buying them for 115. No, so like you're not gonna flip a profit on Caicedo. Like you're not gonna. Like when is that? No. Who's gonna pay 200 million for him? Do you know what I mean?
No, but look, I don't think those guys. I don't think the plan is for profit. But I think the point stands in terms of like the fact that I don't know who's thought this was a good idea to put a squad together like this, because look, I want to believe in what we're doing, but at the same time I can see that there's glaring holes and mistakes in what we are trying to do right now. You know, we're now 3 windows now into the 4-window plan that David Ornstein was on about. This 4th window better be fucking good in the summer and address what we need, because otherwise, like I'm sort of looking at it and I think, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. I like the fact that we're bringing younger players in, trying to cut out that middleman where someone else finds them, develops them, and then we end up spending like 70 or 80 million on them when we could try and find them as a 10 or 15 million pound player or whatever. That in theory sounds great, right? And I haven't got a problem with that. My problem is when you're trying to do it for pretty much 3/4 of the fucking team. That's when it's a problem. It's okay to sign maybe 3 or 4 of those. Yeah. But when the whole team is like that, and look, for me, I know they want to come in, try and revolutionize things, try and, put their own spin on things. And look, I think in theory, the plan's not a bad plan. I just think the execution has been absolutely horrendous so far. There's nowhere near enough experience. And I don't mean experience in terms of like, just get any old sort of 28-year-old in. I don't mean that, because you've got Sterling, he's experienced, and he's been crap really this season for large parts. I mean, top established professionals, like have maybe 5 or 6 of those. We essentially what we lack, mate. We lack a spine. Goalkeeper.
And to make it worse, we are seemingly happy to lose Thiago Silva. And I'm not saying Thiago Silva at nearly 40 years old should be the savior. Obviously, he shouldn't. But when you see the problems that the squad has with too much inexperience, too much youth, too much inconsistency, and then you get rid of the most experienced, the most consistent player that we have, it's just.
But it's even things like,
to me make sense.
No, but it's even
people that get it, but I just don't. Bro.
But there's even things like we were desperate for a goal scorer this month, but instead of bringing one in, we just let one go and leave ourselves shorter. Like I'm not. Like it's things I'm not, and this is not about saying that Broja's good. That's not what I'm trying to say, that we should have kept him because he's good. But we should have kept him to have that profile there, and just for numbers. Because now,
if you loaned anyone, you should have loaned David Washington, not Broja.
Yeah, well, that's my point. But my issue with this ownership at the moment is that they're completely fixated on the future, and then they're completely neglecting the present. Broja was loaned out because they want to try and increase his value to get more profit in the summer. That's why they've loaned him out, because they want to increase his value so they can get a bigger transfer fee for him, because the ridiculous fee that was.
Do you think that though, or do you think they've loaned him out because they failed to sell him? Because that's what it's like to me. We failed to sell everyone.
No, but it's both though, isn't it? Because
they wanted
to sell him. They wanted to sell him, but then they obviously put the ridiculously unrealistic valuations on him. Realized they couldn't get that. We went through this comical chain of events where it started as Broja's not for sale unless we bring a replacement in. Now we want 50 million. Oh, no one's going to pay that. Now we want 35. oh, now we're happy with a loan with an obligation. Actually, no. Now we're happy with a loan and an option. Actually, no. Now we're happy with just a loan with no replacement coming in. Oh, we want 5 million loan fee. Actually, no. If he plays in half the games for Fulham, then there's going to be no loan fee. Like, what are we doing? Just be clear of your message.
Embarrassing.
It's
utterly embarrassing. We're run like a complete clown show. We are run like a clown show.
And that, for me, my biggest problem is, mate, is that obviously, like, Burnley and Barley aren't necessarily football people, and that's fine. But
neither was Roman, right?
No,
neither was Roman.
Who recommended to employ Win Stanley and Laurenz Stewart? Who thought that these guys would be ready to make that step up from their respective clubs in Monaco and Brighton, and they'd have the know-how, and they've put squads together to compete in a Premier League and to get Chelsea a squad that's competing? Who recommended that? Who thought that was a good idea? Like, whose idea was it to go down this route? Because, like, when they came in, right? Was it Bowley and Barley and the Clear Lake Consortium that thought, right, okay, we're coming in, we're going to shake things up, we want to go down this route. No one's done it before. We just want to flood the team with youngsters. We're going to flip a load of players for profit. Whose idea was that? Was that the owner's idea? Was that the sporting director's idea that they bought in, or did they consult those directors saying, like, this is what we want to do? Are you happy to come in on these terms? Because for me, yes, the manager is part of the issue. For me, the bigger issue is the fact that we don't have a proper sporting director or a director of football. I guarantee, right, if we were able to get Michael Edwards, we wouldn't be in half the mess we're in right now. So whilst I think the manager is to blame and he has to take responsibility and he must do better, for me, the bigger problem lies if you get rid of Pochettino, right, and you leave this same structure in place, the next person that comes in is going to have the same problems and is not really going to do any better. Or it's going to be a negligible difference in how much better they actually do. So for me, I think the biggest thing is we have to get a proper sporting director in, because these guys, like Laurenz Stewart, could be part of the multi-club model. Fine, as I said, Win Stanley's got a good eye for talent. Make him chief scout or something. But these guys being put in positions.
I've heard Joe Shields. I can't lie.
Well, Joe Shields is good, right? But Win Stanley can definitely be part of a scouting setup, or he can be a talent ID guy, or whatever.
After the last 2 years,
well, maybe not. But my other point is that,
I get what you're saying. I'm just like,
until that's sorting out, you can keep changing the manager. But until you've got a top class sporting director of football, or whatever you want to call it, then whoever the manager is, these problems are going to keep persisting. And like you might get a slight improvement with someone else coming in, but with these guys in charge, how can you trust this process to get potentially another manager right when everyone they've brought in so far has been wrong? How can there be faith in them to get the right one done? Pochettino was a thorough and extensive process, and like this is where we are now. For me personally, I don't think he should go because I don't think it helps us in any way whatsoever. But until the structure changes and we get a best in class like we were promised, these problems, whoever the manager is, are going to still persist.
It's difficult. You said a lot of things there, and I almost want to reply to a lot of them. Probably can't think of all of them on the spot. I want to quickly go to this comment here by Ricky, because he says, surprise, surprise, mid-table sporting directors turn Chelsea into a mid-table club. Now, I get where you come from with that, and I get a little bit of like, what's the word? Like sarcasm, I suppose, with your statement there. But I want to say this, like, where was Jurgen Klopp before he went to Dortmund? A lower league Bundesliga.
Mainz,
not lower league, but bottom half Bundesliga club at Mainz, right? Like, when whoever, unless you've created your own company, if you turn out to be a CEO, you didn't start as a CEO. You started lower down and you work your way up. Just because they were at mid-table clubs beforehand doesn't necessarily mean they can't then, get a better job and improve. That's usually fair. How it goes in everyone's career.
Absolutely fair. Yeah.
Exactly.
You work your way up, don't you?
Exactly.
No one goes in at the top level, generally speaking. Like you always start somewhere lower down. So, like, in theory, like, these appointments like might not have looked that bad. Okay, fair enough. We've maybe switched it up a little bit, done something that we don't normally do. But like, at the same time, I also feel like when you've done something and there's a large body of evidence that it's not really working, there's no shame in accepting that, actually, do you know what we originally planned wasn't working. We need to change track slightly and correct the course of action. But I almost feel like there's a sense of stubbornness or whatever with this ownership, with these directors, that we've gone so far down this road that it's too late to go back, and we're just going to stick with it now. And you know,
do you think that's the right approach though, or do you think we should like change our minds eventually, or when is the point of no return? Is there even such a thing as a point of no return?
I don't know, because when you go down this route, it's, you know, there's going to be issues in the short term. This is not a short-term success route. This is looking at the longer term, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, right? But I don't know if they've underestimated or neglected or whatever it is, like thinking, because they're so fixated on long term and projects and whatnot, maybe they've just completely forgotten about the present and the short term, which in football are really important. Football is unique in the sense that you have to plan long term, but you need success short term as well. And I just feel like they've been so fixated on the long term, they've completely forgotten about the short term and the kind of the mess that we're in. Look, for what it's worth, mate, I still believe that we can be, look, let's be honest, right? Yeah, it's not great right now, but, and it's a big if, we can still win a trophy this season. We could win the final, right? Okay. We're still in the FA Cup. Maybe that changes on Wednesday night, but we're still in the FA Cup, and we could still finish in the Europa League spaces. So it's not all is lost in this second half of the season, but a lot of things need to change. And I think the biggest thing for me is that I know it's very difficult to get a lot of players to improve at a rate at the same time, but I would admit that I am surprised at how few players have shown a tangible improvement under Poch so far this season. I'm not saying it's going to be an instant thing that happens. Who would
you say has improved since the beginning of the season?
I would say Gallagher's improved from what we probably expected from him from the start of the season. I think he's regressed a little bit the last few weeks, but you would say there'd been an improvement there. I would say, look, Gusto was already good at Lyon, but he's played very well for us since he's come in. So but perhaps,
has he improved, or has he just come and surprised?
I don't know. I don't know if he's improved or not, because he was good at Lyon, but I suppose you would say that his level has been good since he arrived. I think that's probably a fair thing to say. Whether you can, like, it's sort of tit for tat. Has he actually improved his level since I didn't watch him loads at Lyon, but he was decent at Lyon. Disasi was good. Could you say that his level's improved? I don't know, but these guys have come in and done well, and I suppose you have to give the manager some sort of credit for that. In terms of like players, like there's for me, players that not enough players have improved. I haven't really seen.
For me, the only one that has, like, I get what you're saying in terms of Gallagher compared to last season, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I guess maybe some of that should be put down the Poch. So I'll happily concede Gallagher. But for me, other than Gallagher, it's just Palmer. Because to me, everybody else is just a new signing that are their level. Because Gusto hasn't necessarily been better now than it was at the beginning of the season, or Disasi hasn't been better now than at the beginning of the season. So,
no, I would agree.
So it's two players, and I was tweeting this today, right? And again, got me a lot of abuse, but who cares? I said, because obviously Richarlison now seems to be scoring all sorts of goals every game, and I was like, how on earth has Ange Postecoglou managed to turn Richarlison from one of the biggest flops in the country from a laughing stock to a goal machine? I don't understand how that happened. And that's not because I don't rate Richarlison. I understand that he was good at Everton. I'm aware of all of those things. But fact of the matter is that he was absolutely diabolical at Spurs until Ange turned up. I say that until 2 months ago. 3 months ago, he was absolutely diabolical. What, did he score a single Prem goal last season on the Conte? I don't think he did, right? So, like,
again, one maybe, or didn't score
7 goals since December, which is ridiculous, right? And I look at our team, like we just discussed, and I'm like, other than Palmer, has anyone improved? And can I even give Poch credit for Palmer? I mean, yeah, he's playing him a lot and he's giving him the freedom to express himself. That's good. But essentially what's happened to Palmer is just he's been let off the leash because he's finally been allowed to play regularly, which he hasn't been able to do at Manchester City. So even his improvement is more like, okay, you let him play, rather than that it feels like we taught him anything that is now significantly better. Now you can talk a little bit about Jackson. He got a bit better worse from pre-season, but then better than the first few weeks of the season. He stopped getting booked, and that's something. But otherwise, it's just, and I want to go back to what I said earlier, right? In terms of, we just run like a complete clown show. Like when you look at it, like last summer, so much praise was given to our owners and directors in terms of the players we sold. And I stand by this. The only players we sold that they've done a good job on are Mason Mount and Kai Havertz. They're the only two. Everybody else, every single other player, and please correct me if you think of someone else that I might have forgotten, but I think every single other player that we let go for cheap, for free, or on loan.
I think Kovacic was probably an all right deal, to be fair.
How much did we get for him?
25 on it.
On a year left. But he's like, think of where Kovacic has been. Like, I'm not saying it's an awful deal. You're right. Maybe it's a valid shout, but you can't tell me like they've done a great job.
No.
Here.
But what I would say though, mate, is that I think all of us would agree that that's clear out and they're needing to happen for years. And we got it.
I disagree because yes, it should have happened, but it should have never happened all at once.
No,
and that is part of the problem.
That should have
rather kept a few of them, signed a few less, and made the whole transition over 2 years, not in one summer.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, in fairness, that's not all on this ownership because look, people don't like Roman was amazing for us, right? But people don't like to criticize Roman for whatever reason. But the reality is, we wouldn't have had to have done all this if the recruitment had been if we'd actually invested like we should have done, where you move 2 or 3 on and then you bring another 2 or 3 in, and we weren't doing that. How many times were we saying we need to refresh the midfield? We need to refresh the midfield. What top club allows players to run into the last years of their contracts for countless times? Rudiger, Christensen, Mason Mount at the time, to name just 3. Like. Those guys.
Mount only ran into the last year of his contract with the new ownership.
But he should have been offered a new contract after the Champions League. Him, Rudiger.
3 years left on his deal then.
No, but they should have been something though.
No, I agree. I agree.
Like you shouldn't allow Rudiger and Christensen to run their contracts down and leave for fuck all. That shouldn't be happening. So
Roman's and Marina's failures do not mean that the new ownership have not failed.
No, absolutely not.
Both kind of just people. That's what I'm trying to say.
But people talking about like obviously having to do all this in one go. It's because of the poor recruitment that was the back end of the Roman regime. You know how many transfer winners?
Are you really saying every single one of these players had to go right now? Because
no,
I don't think so. Like, I don't think we got good money for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I'm like, no, we didn't.
Ruben was still
Milan's best midfielder.
Yeah.
And they got him for what, 10 million? No, we didn't get good money for Ruben Loftus-Cheek compared to how good he's doing there now. We should have gotten 40 million. He's better than all of our midfielders have been. Like people live in this fake lie that are like, oh, Enzo is amazing, Caicedo is amazing. Their potential is amazing. How many good games have both of them had this season? Like Enzo had good games last season under the old 2 managers. How many good games has Enzo had on the Poch too?
It's difficult. Look, for me, I agree. I think hindsight's great, but you look back at it, we probably got rid of too many too quickly. And I think this has been. I think the overriding thing under this ownership is right. I think intentions are good. They're prepared to dip into their pocket and spend. I just think the reality, why we're in such a mess, is one, the route we've chosen to go down, and I also think the second thing is they've come in, and I get it. Everyone wants to put their own stamp on things, get their own people in, make their own changes. They have made, and I think it's the biggest contributing factor to the mess we're in, have made way too many changes way too quickly in less than 2 years or just about 2 years. Like pretty much all personnel from top to bottom of the club has changed completely. And we wonder why we're in that for me is perhaps the single biggest problem. That is the problem. Is too much change too quickly. I don't have a problem with this change, right? Because change needed to happen. Change was going to happen. Roman wasn't going to be here forever. But the fact is, this change should have been gradually implemented over time, and it perhaps would have been more successful. We've gone for it all in one go, and I think we're massively paying the price for it.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. All I was trying to say is now, like Mount, fair enough, as much as I still don't think he should have been let go, and I stand by this, even 6 months later, and I know he's been terrible at Man United or barely available. I understand all of those things. The same applies to Reece James. Not being available is clearly not a reason to need a player to get gone, or to think so anyway. I mean, some people want Reece James gone, to be fair as well. And Havertz, obviously, they did a phenomenal job. To get another 60 million out of Havertz, I still don't understand quite how we bamboozled Arsenal into that. And people know I like Havertz, but I still didn't think it was worth that money, right? But everybody else, I think Koulibaly, we've only had him for 1 year. Only 1 year. And we sold him to the country that has infinite money. And we still only got, 15 million? 20 million, whatever it was? Like, to a country that has unlimited money, we should have gotten more money for the players we sold them. Like, remember, think back to the summer, Charlie. The people were pulling out conspiracy theories that we are in with the Saudis and we're ruining football. Instead, if anything, we got scammed by them. Like, we gave them Kante for free. We didn't get a lot of money for Koulibaly, in my opinion, for who he is, and considering he's only had one bad season, how great he was before that. And I think even that season was more on the club than it was on Koulibaly individually. The same you can say for Mendy. Like, he's the Champions League winning goalkeeper. He was, I think, when we sold him, the reigning best goalkeeper in the world, as by UEFA, and we sold him for 12 mil. Like, and now ever since then, everyone we've tried to sell, they've failed at. They tried to sell Broja, failed.
Yeah.
Tried to sell Maatsen, failed. Let me quickly say the names, just because it's crazy. Chalobah, they tried to sell, failed. Like, Ziyech tried to sell, failed. Like, they didn't even manage to get actually rid of all the players. Kepa, by the way, he's coming back. And so now I think some people have Sanchez, Petrovic, Kepa, and Slonina.
What I would say is
that eventually want to be first choice. It's crazy.
I think, mate, I agree. What I would say is, though, I just think whoever's doing the valuations are just miles off. I think Chelsea just think that players they're trying to sell are worth way more than they actually are. Like, how are you going to get anything decent for Chalobah when the guy's not kicked a football since last season? Like, you're just not going to get a good price for him.
No, you're not. So stop trying to sell them, because they make it so obvious that they want to sell them that, first of all, what you said, he's been injured, but also the whole world knows, first of all, we need to sell because we need money, and the whole world knows which players we want to sell. So then, obviously, when clubs come into these players, they're like, absolutely no chance are we going to pay what you want. We know you're desperate to sell, so you're doing this on our terms. We're
just putting, bro. We're putting ridiculous valuations on players. If you're a Brighton or a Monaco or whatever, and you've got an Armando Broja type player, asking for 50 million, all right, it's a bit outrageous, but it's not totally outrageous because he's going to be more valuable to that team than he would be to a Chelsea. Coming to Chelsea and asking for 50 million quid for someone like Broja is ridiculous. Like,
realistically, they probably never actually asked for 50 million. They briefed that in the hope to get 30 or 35.
Yeah, but I think the problem we're finding is that the valuations for these players are ridiculous. They expected a lot more offers for these players than they should have done. These are guys that have hardly played, though. How can you expect to get decent money for Maatsen, right? Who's got talent and potential, barely played. How are you going to get decent money for him? How are you expecting to get decent money?
The manager should be sacked for not playing Maatsen, and the sport directors should be sacked because they don't understand the market. Because exactly like you touched on, how can they think they will get this kind of money for these players? Like, again, like you said earlier, Bowley and Iqbali. Bowley barely is barely involved anymore anyway. It's basically all Iqbali nowadays. But Iqbali isn't a football person. It's not just he's doing things wrong. He's not a football person. I understand why he wouldn't necessarily know or understand that. But Winstanley and Stewart should, and they're not. And how can you and me understand that Chalobah has been injured, if that's even true, for 6 months, hasn't played? We are obviously not going to be able to sell him in January.
Like, in theory, right? In theory, with Chalobah, okay, what you would say is, and I know it's not going to work like this, but you would look at him, 24 years of age. He's got 4 years left on his contract, right? He's versatile, can play centre back, right back, or number 6, right? And you'd think, okay, you put all those things together and you'd say, in this market, that should be a £50 million player if he's playing if he's playing regularly or whatnot, or even semi-regularly.
And he should be playing regularly.
And the reality is, we are gonna I'd be shocked if we got 25 million for him. That is ridiculous. When you actually think about Chalobah and how, if he's playing at his best level, the versatility, the age, and the years left on the contract, and particularly with how the market is in football now, we should be getting 50 million quid for him.
Yeah,
that is a good investment for someone. We'll be lucky to get half of that.
But we shouldn't, in my opinion, we shouldn't even be selling him.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the next step in the whole problem, isn't it? Because now, obviously, there was the TalkSport story about how we need to raise £100 million by June, otherwise we're fucked. I don't believe that. That was the same silly reports were thrown out last year, and they were equally as false, right? That they're not accurate. But in the base of it, is still somewhat accurate. We need to raise funds because our whole strategy is failing so hard that we are failing to qualify for Europe. Now, you touched on it earlier. We might qualify for Europa League. Conference League gives you so little money, that makes no difference, in my opinion. Like, you get, 3 million for qualifying? Mate, 3 million? Ekbali wipes the tip of his dick with that. 3 million. Like, it's not even worth mentioning.
Mate, he doesn't get out of bed for that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, literally, right? But when you're in deep, like, how can you be so far off that your whole plan, like you touched on, they're only planning for the future. It's like they didn't understand football. It's like, yeah, but if I only plan for the future and I'm bad now, then I don't qualify for Europe, then I don't get enough money, then I can't afford to buy all these big players, and then I need to make money back. And now all our homegrown players are the sacrificial lambs. And now some people in the chat and a lot of people on Twitter have got me, why are you making a big deal out of Maatsen and Gallagher and Broja? That's not the point. The point is that these players, whether good or not, are purely being sacrificed to make pure profit back because the owners have failed at building a squad that works. And now, to bail them out of being points deducted, of being transfer banned, of being all sorts of other things, we now need to sacrifice all the homegrown players. And I tweeted this yesterday, right? Well, let me get this tweet up, actually. Not my own tweet.
What I would say, right, is it's clear the route that what's going down, right? What I would say is that who's to say, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what's to say that maybe in a few years' time, if we keep spending like this, or they just obsessed with pure profit, who's to say that they might not be like, oh, we'll sell Reece James? Like, who's to say that they might not think that and that might not happen? Like that, that is a possibility.
Bro, that's exactly. This is what you just said. Wait, let me get to my own tweet.
But Levi Colwell potentially might be another one. They might look at and think, fuck, we need to raise some quick money. We'll sell him for pure profit and we'll bring in someone that's like, 16 or 17 years old.
72 quotes and 93 replies for saying exactly what you just said, right? People are like, but Colwell and Reece James, they're good. People don't understand. It's not about
but these players here are good as well, though. They're obviously not as good as perhaps that level, but they're still good footballers that would make a difference to this squad.
Exactly. And the point isn't whether they're good or not. The owners don't care about that. The owners are selling them for money. And if we continue to fail to qualify for Europe, eventually the only homegrown players we will have left that are worth anything will be Colwell, Reece James, and Alfie Gilchrist. Now, first will be Gilchrist, second will be Colwell, and third will be Reece James. But why will Reece James be third? Because he's injured so much that no one will want to buy him anyway. Like, they would factually try to sell them if need be. And the only saving us from that happening is qualifying for Europe. And people live in this fake dream world. No, they wouldn't sell those. Why not? They sold Mount. Like, Mount 2 years ago was exactly the big star boy at Chelsea that Reece James is now, or that Levi Colwell is now. Why would they stop at them? Why? What makes people think that they're going to buy another Endo, they're going to buy another Angelo, they're going to buy another Caicedo? Why would they stop? They're going to buy another Dizazi. But one thing is for sure, they will not buy someone over 25. The one thing we need is what they won't buy. And like, again, I'm not saying this factually will happen, but if they're just
it looks like
the club, they want to be here as profit.
But you can see the direction. You can see the direction it's potentially going in. Like, of course, this is like hypothetical situations, but at the same time, when you see all these academy products being sold because we need the money to make up for the fact we're not in Europe. Of course, hopefully we get some Europa League money or something. It's not. What I would say is like, these guys have got, I'm not saying that a Gallagher or a Maatsen or a Broja or a Chalobah or whatever would be regular starters, but look at squads that win Premier Leagues, right? And these sort of players are really important. That Centurions team, Fabian Delph, you wouldn't say he was a great footballer. He played an important role at times. Look at it when Jose was first here. Guys like Jeremy, Yuri Jarosik, Smertin, guys that would like not amazing footballers.
There's the poor Chelsea now. I've never even heard the names you've just said.
But guys that like maybe play 10 or 15 games a season, but they'd be crucial in what they delivered in those 10 or 15 games. It's not about you're not going to have 25 unbelievable players in your squad. You're going to have maybe 11 that, 12 or 13 that are your best players. But then the other guys are going to be guys like a Gallagher, like a Broja or a Chalobah or whatever. And these guys make a difference. They're going to make a difference. Every title-winning squad is got players that might not be fancy names, but they'll give you 10 or 15 games, and what they offer you makes a big difference. And some of these lads, like a Gilchrist, for example, could well do that. Like a Gallagher, for example. Like this is what I mean. Like, it's not all about having amazing footballers in the whole squad. It's about these guys have a role to play. Not all of them, but some of them have a role to play. And what, you get rid of them and then you spend the same money, or if not more, to replace them anyway, for players that actually probably at the time they come in aren't any better, and there's no guarantees that they will be any better. So
that's exactly the point. Like Joe said it there. We need to use our brains more. Most of these homegrown players are not good enough to win us stuff. But here's my question, Joe. Think about it. How many of the players that we have signed are? How many? Maybe Enzo, maybe Caicedo, maybe one day. Certainly not now. The whole of England thinks he's the biggest flop of the season. And some Chelsea fans are a bit butthurt about this. But are they really that wrong? Excuse my dog barking in the background, please. But like Palmer, maybe he's good enough. But everybody else, Mudryk, we don't know. Madueke, we don't know. Jackson, we don't know. Dizazi, we don't know. Badiashile, we don't know. Sanchez, Petrovic.
At the end of the day, mate, the biggest problem is that there's too many unknowns and there's too many unreliable players in this squad. That is the reality of the situation. Too many unknowns and too many unreliable players. And ultimately, what you get when you have that is wildly inconsistent performances, which is exactly what we're seeing. So really, when you boil it down and you think, right, okay, have we got every right to be frustrated and annoyed with how things are going? Absolutely. But then when we actually strip it back and look at it from a logical point of view, why are we acting surprised that any of this is happening? Because this is exactly what you should expect to happen with the route that we've chosen to go down. So then, obviously, I know football's emotional and stuff, and you're going to be angry about things, and rightfully so, and you're going to criticize things like we all do. But when you actually sort of think about it in a rational point of view, why are we surprised at what's happening right now, given that we've set up and we've gone down a route which lends itself to produce this exact sort of thing? Like, why are Chelsea fans surprised that we're wildly inconsistent when we've set up in a wildly inconsistent way that's going to lend itself to those sort of performances? Why are we surprised? And then when young players need support, you've got fans, not saying us necessarily, but you've got fans that at every possible opportunity are tearing those players down. How is that helpful? It's not. So my point is, why are we surprised that we're in this situation when the route this ownership's chosen to go down, the exact results you're going to get from it in the early stages are exactly what we're seeing?
That's exactly it. I'm not surprised. No one should be surprised. But the problem is the ownership is surprised. They think they've built a 100-point squad. And instead we're ninth.
They didn't state what division that 100-point squad was in, but
yeah, but I'm not sure if that division exists where this team is 100 points. How many games that needs? Do you know what I mean? Like across 7 seasons, maybe we'll get to 100 points, but not in one season. I mean, like Joel elaborates a bit more. He says, "My point is that it's not bad business to sell homegrown players. Yeah, we all love Connor, but that's because he works hard in terms of goals or assists for a number 10 poor." Now, you're not wrong with that. In a general sense, that for number 10, his goals and assist output this season. I wouldn't even say assist because in terms of chances created, he's by far the best in the team. So the one
thing that Gallagher was really good at when he was on loan at Palace and West Brom and whatnot was goal scoring, right? And his other stuff needed to improve. Now he's improved a lot of his off the ball attributes, and then the one thing that's regressed is the one thing that he was actually pretty good at in the first place, like goal scoring and stuff just disappeared.
Exactly. But I mean, where was this coming? Like we said here, yeah, Gallagher isn't good enough to be a starter, but how can he not be good? Like, he's the perfect squad player. The perfect squad player. He can play multiple positions. He will do a shift in every one of those. He's always fit, always. Now, I understand if he's worth a lot of money. That's why in the summer, I was like, okay, if we get 45, 50 million for him, sell him. He was top of my list because of what he was worth compared to what I thought he would be worth to the team. Now, in the end, it turned out we sold Mount, which made Gallagher a starter because all of the other players that we have are never fit. So then the whole situation obviously changed. But from the base of it, no one can tell me that Gallagher isn't a good enough player to be here. Yeah, maybe he shouldn't start every week, but that ain't Gallagher's fault that he is. It's the fault of the recruitment team that keep buying injury-prone players, and of the manager that keeps doing something in training to injure every player that we have. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I know he did that. That happened at Spurs as well. And eventually, after the first season, this high influx of injuries meant they had less injuries in the long term, because they kind of worked up the fitness so that they're in a better spot again. But the problem is we're getting half of the injuries because we are using them too soon after injuries, or using them too much after injuries. Gusto's injury now because he was overplayed. Nkunku's injury because he was rushed back. Lavia's injury because he was rushed back. But Ugochukwu injury because he was rushed back. Every single one of those. Coble's injury because he was overplayed. Every single one of these injuries is because they're overplayed. Every single one of them. And we'll get to the team and stuff for tomorrow in a second. But Nkunku is apparently ready to start, but like I've heard, will start.
Well, he played 45
Is that a good idea?
Well, mate, to be honest, he played 45 minutes in the week, and he looks fine.
But
there's no reason.
Fine last time, and then he was out for another month and a half with an injury.
Well, we've got a problem now where we kind of, even if we don't want to, we kind of have to chuck him in. Even like for me, I'd play him for an hour, but
yeah. I agree. And obviously, I'm not the doctor. I'm not the physio. They should know whether they.
But it's risky either way, though. You start him, he could get injured. You bring him off the bench, he could get injured. Like there's not for me. There's not really a right or wrong.
We've learned this season that there's been many times where they brought players back too soon and they got injured. So how can I now be sure they won't be doing that again? Do you know what I mean? Because it's literally happened multiple times.
We don't know. Is the reality of the situation? We're not really sure, but.
We'll get to the team in a second. I quickly just want to react to this last comment by Joel. He says, what good is a squad player if we get ducked 10 points? He's not worth 10 points at the moment. Yeah, see, but Joel, that's my issue. Now, sure, in hindsight, now that we've done all the squad planning the way we have, selling Gallagher is a must. And whether I like it or not, that's a fact. I can't disagree with that. The problem is how we got here. And people excusing the ownership and the directors, saying they haven't screwed up because we shouldn't be in the situation where we need to sell Gallagher not to be docked points. That's the whole problem in and of itself. It's not about whether Gallagher is good enough or should stay or not. The problem is that he has to be sold to save us. And the fact that we're in that position is proof of how badly the owners and directors have screwed up, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, Charlie, let's quickly focus on tomorrow's game. Let me quickly get the injury list up. We've limited it a little bit. Chukwuemeka isn't on there anymore.
With single figures, mate.
Exactly. Nkunku isn't on there anymore. Chilwell isn't on there anymore, even though after what he did at Anfield, maybe it would be better if he was. Flip sake. But yeah, Chalobah, he's been now in reconditioning phase since December. Still nowhere to be seen. Maybe he will come back instantly now that the transfer window is shut. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Cole, Cucurella, Fofana, James, Lavia, Sanchez, and Ugochukwu are still out. We've talked about it now. Nkunku and Gusto most likely fit to start. Whether they're fit to play 90 minutes or not, I don't know. But
give him 60. Give him 60, I'd say.
Exactly. So it's been a bit of an interesting mix between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1 of late, where Enzo hasn't really played as a second pivot player to me. Enzo has played as an 8 that drops deep in to build up and then goes super high when we're in attack. So that's a box-to-box player to me. And then you have Gallagher here, who doesn't really play as a 10, but more as a right 8, in my opinion. But whether you call it 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, would you stick to that? You know what? I'm not going to ask you. Would you stick to? Do you think Poch will stick to? Let's do that.
I think so. Do you know what, mate? I can't remember who I was having this chat with the other day. I'm just saying that I'm not saying we're going to do it, but the reality is, I know we've waited years to move away from it, but what we've got right now, the back 5 probably suits us best. It gets more. It protects Silva a bit more. You know, Gusto, Chilwell, whoever it is in those wing back positions works pretty well. It just gives you a problem at the other end in terms of
again
you have to play Nkunku as a 9 basically for it to work. Which it's not a disaster, but I think from a defensive standpoint and then midfield, a back 5 probably does suit this team better. But we're not going to see that. But it's just an interesting thought. I've been trying to move away from it for so long that with the makeup of the squad, it probably still suits us best.
That's what I mean, right? That is another proof of how bad the squad planning has been, that they've tried to go away from the back five, and now we sit here, and back five would be the most logical thing to do, and it's insane. But let's do the back four first, and including the goalie, obviously, and then we'll talk about where Nkunku will play and stuff. Obviously, Petrovic is in goal. Sanchez isn't back fit yet, but even if Sanchez was back fit, I would pick Petrovic regardless. Now, Chilwell was dreadful at Liverpool, right?
But, it was awful, but he's still going to play. There's no Colwell. Cucurella's injured.
Isn't it already overplaying him again if he starts again? Because he was injured for 4 months.
Well, then what do we do then?
Against Liverpool?
What, so you play Gusto, you switch Gusto to the left, do you?
And then, I don't know. What
I think, to be honest, bro, I think, unfortunately, we're just going to have to.
I agree, right? I agree, but I'm saying the last game is not long ago.
No, it's not. But
I wouldn't be surprised if Chile turns up with another hamstring tomorrow if he starts. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it could be a problem, mate. But I think the middle for me, Silva will play again, and I'll be honest. I think Badiashile will have to hold the bench, and it'll be Silva and Disasi.
The fact that Silva is playing all of these games is so insane, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been unfortunately, Colwell unavailable, Badiashile having a horrible time at the moment. That is the best we've got right now, Disasi and Silva.
I think this will, and I probably think this kind of should be the back four, even if I think we're maybe slightly overdoing it with Chilwell. I'm also not sure if Gusto's really ready to start. I don't know.
That's the best we've got, bro. That's the best we've got available.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then you will have Caicedo and Enzo again. It's not going to be anybody else. We don't have anybody else available. Oh, well, just Cazorla is now back, but he's not going to start.
No, he's not going to start, no.
So we can keep this one short and simple. Now it's where we get
this is where it's a bit more interesting. I mean, for me personally, mate, I don't want to be seeing any false nine bullshit. So for me, I'd play Palmer on the right.
Okay.
And then I don't know if he's fit enough to start, but Gallagher's not been it for the last few games. He should be on the bench, and he was subbed at half time, rightfully so, because he was shit. I'd play Carney in the 10. I really think I'm really massive fan of him.
Same.
Madueke was poor.
Yeah, sure.
And he plays right rather than left. And I honestly, bro, I can't stand Sterling at the moment. It physically makes me angry seeing him in a Chelsea shirt. So I'll be playing Mudryk.
At the moment, I love Mudryk, but he also makes me angry.
No, he makes me less angry.
Oh, never does anything.
Yeah, but that might be the case. But he makes me less angry, and you'd expect that from Mudryk, but you wouldn't expect it from Sterling. So for me, that's what I would be going with behind Nicholas Jackson. I'd go Mudryk, Carney, and Palmer, but I can guarantee.
You're not starting Nkunku?
Oh shit! I completely forgot about that. Oh yeah, fuck. Well, maybe I'm starting Nkunku as a 9 then. I don't know if Jackson should be going straight back in.
Nah, you got to play Jackson, bro. If he's
how about this then? How about scrap Mudryk at left wing and have Jackson playing off the left with Nkunku as a 9?
But you really want that? A striker at left wing and a kind of number 10?
Well, we've got a few. Problem is though, this is the point. What do we? How do we? Because I want Carney to play, but then how do you fit Nkunku in? You probably have to play Nkunku as the 9 and leave Jackson on the bench.
Yeah. If you picked what you think Poch will pick, right? Let's do this for a second.
Oh, bro, it'll be Gallagher. It'll be Gallagher.
See, I think I quickly tell you mine, and then you can tell me yours, right?
Yeah, Sterling's going to play. As much as we hate it, we know he's going to play.
I think Poch is going to start this.
I don't think
he'll play Gallagher against Wolves.
No, I don't think he will either. Well, I think he will, but I can potentially see why he wouldn't. I think that's a very good shout for what the lineup will most likely be.
Yeah.
This is one of the life's great mysteries, is that he's prepared to sub off the younger players, but somehow, however shit Sterling is, he literally always gets a full game or pretty much a full game. Doesn't matter what his level of performance is. I don't know how he gets away with it.
I don't either. I mean, mate, if we put Nkunku on the left, I'd rather Nkunku on the left than Jackson personally.
Well,
If I have to put one
and then you put Carney in there.
Yeah, purely because we're now not
Yeah.
playing Colwell but Chilwell. So then this is a bit more feasible. Do you know what I mean? Because Nkunku can come inside, Chilwell does the wide area,
and it could. And to be fair, it could switch to a 4-2-2 anyway. You could have Jackson, Nkunku could go alongside Jackson, Carney, and Palmer, kind of just filling, sort of the half spaces or whatever.
Do one of those,
and it could end up being.
I mean, Carney. I swear in the game that he got injured away at West Ham when he scored, I swear he was playing half of the left already in that game anyway.
Yeah, he was, and even when he come on the other night, he was in a decent position.
But towards the left he was, because obviously I couldn't watch the second half. So
when he come on, he a nice driving run to set up the Nkunku goal.
Fair enough. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, put it in the chat. What do you think? How do you think it should be lined up? Because I want to see Carney, but at the same time, like, I don't want to see Carney over Nkunku if Nkunku is fit to start.
No.
Now I'm like, but currently with Sterling and Mudryk's form, maybe it's worth a try. Like,
but then, part of me is just
go on.
I was going to say, part of me is just like this whole thing with Mudryk, right? Starting him, then benching him, and then bringing him on. That doesn't work. I think for me with Mudryk, you just need to put an arm around the shoulder and just be like, look, I don't care how shit you are. You're playing tomorrow. You're going to play on Wednesday. You're going to play against Crystal Palace on Monday. You're going to play against Man City the following weekend. I'm just going to play you and go and go.
But you should have been on the last 2 months when we had all the other players out injured.
Yeah,
now that Nkunku and Carney and stuff are back, it's much more difficult to do.
Yeah, it is. But the funny thing is, though, mate, is that when he was doing that in December, when Mudryk started 4 or 5 games on the spin, what was he doing? He was a threat. He was getting assists and he was scoring a few goals. And then whatever reason,
saved us against Newcastle off the bench, by the way.
Yeah,
and ever since then, started 3 games.
Yeah,
and that was in mid-December.
I don't get it, mate. Like, he was having a run of games and he was doing well, and then all of a sudden, he can't get those games. So part of me is like, we should just
this is around like, I'll even play him tomorrow because I know Poch will just not play him the next game anyway. And as you've just touched on, if you don't play him all of the time, it almost becomes pointless. So you might as well never play him.
He's someone that is massively a confidence player and just needs to know that, do you know what? Even if you're playing shit, you're going to stay on for at least 70 or 80 minutes. You're not going to be the first one off or whatever.
Should be, but Poch ain't doing that.
Yeah, look, for me, mate, I would probably, I would go with that. The only change I might make, as much as I like Carney, if Mudryk starts on the left and Nkunku goes in the 10, then fine. But apart from that, mate, to be honest, literally the team pretty much picks itself, in my opinion. And then you could have a slight conversation about maybe 1 or 2 of them behind the striker. But
I'll be honest, bro. I'll be honest. Until you said Jackson, I kind of forgot that Jackson's back. I was fully prepared for you to say Nkunku up front, and then you said Jackson. I was like, oh yeah, he's back.
Well, no, but you could go Nkunku up front. You absolutely could.
Well,
You could.
I mean, again, Enzo here saying Jackson left wing. I don't know, man.
It's a possibility for sure, but
it's a possibility. But we got to remember who we're playing. We're playing Wolves at home. They're just going to park the bus. What the fuck do I do with Jackson on the wing against that?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair.
Counter-attacking team, then sure, put Jackson on the left wing. That's all right.
To be honest,
against the low block at home.
For me personally, it's either Nkunku goes up top and Mudryk plays on the left, or it's like this.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think Poch will start Carney, but I would. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's right to start Carney unless he gives Carney a few minutes and he starts him in the cup in midweek. I don't know.
No, exactly. But I mean, it is his old club, but I'm not sure if Carney will thrive from that or if there will be some too much extra pressure if he starts.
Sometimes you just got like. For me, I think sometimes we're like cuddling these players too much. Just chuck them in. Just chuck them in at the deep end and just let them learn. Like, there's no point. What are we protecting them from? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I just think maybe we're being overly cautious of a lot of these guys. The only way they're going to learn is by going out there and playing and learning from mistakes they're going to make. There's no point us trying to protect them.
Yeah. And soccer, and I will be very surprised because Colwell is injured. So I would
that won't happen.
Yeah, literally. Mate, Nacho, my dead nan would boss Caicedo and Enzo while Pochettino is the manager. Like, he's the worst. I've never seen a manager coach a midfield this badly. Like, I've never seen it before. We have a £220 million midfield, and we look like we chopped a leg of Jorginho and a leg of Kovacic and put them on the pitch. That's what it feels like. They're playing like half a Jorginho and half a Kovacic. Like, I can't believe how much stick Jorginho, Kovacic, how much stick they've got. And how much support Caicedo and Enzo are getting. I understand they're new players, so I get it. But, like, you know how far superior even the worst game of Jorginho has been than other than 2 games, everything Caicedo has done yet? Like, in my opinion. I know people don't care, but all Caicedo does is get booked for this end. That's all he does. Every game. Every fucking game. This whole squad gets fucking booked for this end.
Yeah, no, it's long. It's long.
Charlie, I know you need to head off, so let's finish this off with a score prediction. What do you reckon?
I'll be honest, bro. Like, we have to get a reaction. But I don't know what we're gonna. I don't know. You just don't know what you're gonna get from Chelsea at home. If it was away, loss, long day for us. No problem. But at home, we're 10 unbeaten. I think there will be some sort of a reaction. This will be a lot closer. For me, mate, I'm going to go for a narrow 2-1 win for us, but I equally wouldn't be surprised if it ended as 1-1 or something like that.
I hear you. It's weird because obviously recently our home record has actually been quite good. And obviously the fact that we're kind of bouncing back from getting absolutely embarrassed at Anfield, I think we're going to win. I'm even going to say 2-0. Because when I think back to that Wolves away game,
we could have won that. Like, if Sterling should have squared it, it's a different game.
Exactly, right? And that was them at home. So I'm like, surely us being at home with now having a pretty decent home form, surely we should be perfectly fine. But who knows if that will be the case? Who knows if that will be the case? Charlie, I'll stick around by myself a little bit, see if I can talk a few questions with the chat, but we know you need to head off, so I wish you a lovely dinner. Everybody, please do check out Charlie's channel. Link is down in the description below, Blue Brother CFC. Please subscribe to him. But yeah, Charlie, thanks as always, mate. And I hope we're both right and we win the game tomorrow because, mate, you can tell from how I'm speaking, right? Like, I'm so done. I'm so done.
It's tough right now. It's tough right now.
It's just, it's getting to me so hard.
It's difficult. It's difficult. But no, mate, thanks for having me as always. Big up to you, mate. And yeah, catch up with you soon, bro.
Have a good one, man. Cheers.
Nice one. Cheers. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've decided I have a little bit of time until I need to go again. So why not talk a little bit to you in the chat? If you have any questions, if you have any things to say, please put them out. If you have any like tweets that you want me to like open up, look at, and kind of discuss or whatever, please send them. Obviously, links don't really work in the chat, but you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah, like I just said to Charlie, I'm just so I'm so drained by this football club. Obviously, I've been moving for the last 2 weeks, and life is just stressful, right? But Chelsea used to be a source of escape, a source of happiness. That's why I made it partly my job. But now it's just the more I think about Chelsea, the more depressed I am. It's just I can't handle it. Like people think I'm so negative, or people think I'm this and that. I mean, maybe I am negative, but if you've watched me for long enough, you know that I've always been the most supportive, the most optimistic. I never want, even if I've had my criticism of Tuchel, I never wanted Tuchel sacked. I never wanted Lampard sacked. I never wanted Sarri sacked. Conte didn't want sacked because he did annoy me, but with Conte the exception. I didn't want Jose sacked. I didn't even want Potter sacked, really. I knew that he had to be, but I didn't even want him sacked. So this isn't me, but Poch, the sporting directors, they all just need to go. But like we talked about, if we don't change the strategy, it doesn't matter. Like, if Poch is sacked, but the sport directors stay, nothing changes. It doesn't even matter whether we sack Poch. As much as I think he needs to be sacked, if he was to be sacked and the sport directors change, nothing happens. We might as well keep him, right? Or if we keep only signing under 25 players, because we are now also running out of money to. We're running out of money to actually get these Enzos, Caicedos, maybe Endricks, right? These super talents. Because of no Champions League and having spent as much as we already have, we won't even be able to buy these types of players. So the kind of players we will start buying moving forward will be subpar and not even that young and just cheap. And then we'll just hope they turn into something. And then to make up for it, we'll sell the homegrown players. And that's like, I don't even think we're going to get Osimhen. I do not think that this ownership will pay Osimhen the wages that Osimhen wants and needs. I don't see it. I don't see it happening, and I could be wrong. And I know, Joel, I'm not sure if you're still here, but you were talking earlier a few times about how important it is that we don't have a striker and how much of a big deal that is. And on the one hand, I agree with you. On the other hand, I'm like, we thought that before we signed Lukaku. And okay, Lukaku worked initially for like a month, but then also before he started falling out with everyone, it also stopped working then. And then even when he came back and apologized, even though it was the fake stars apology I've ever seen, Tuchel played him for 10 games straight, and he was awful in every single 10 of those. So I'm not sure you could just be that sure that a striker solves everything. It could do, but I'm not sure. I mean, Douglas, I'm going to call you Dinkelberg. Just tune in, Laos, and I feel you. Thank you. DHL says, I'm seriously in favor of hire and fire. Madrid have done it for years, and it always worked for them. I don't know why we tried this project business. I get what you're saying, but we are very far from being Real Madrid. Like, we don't have the stature and we don't have the power to do what Real Madrid do. Also, how long has Ancelotti been in charge there? I'm not even sure it's necessarily that simple that they do hire and fire. Chelsea lost the last game because the referee wants Liverpool to remain top of the table since Man City already won. But what on earth makes you watch that game? And even if we get the penalty for Gallagher, and sure, it's 0-0, and it could change everything completely. But watching the whole game, do you really feel that even if we go 1-0 up, we don't still lose? Because I do. I honestly do. Like, yeah, you're right. It could change. But it's not conclusive enough to say, oh, we definitely would have been better if the referees, or we definitely would have got a better result if the referees did a better job. I don't think you can say that. I think maybe. But I think the chances that Liverpool still destroy us, even if we go 1-0 up through a penalty, are equally as big. And you can't just say, yeah, but imagine we also get the second penalty. Yeah, but if we get the first one, the whole game is different. So you can't just say, if we get both. It's not how it works. The second situation doesn't happen if the first one is given. You can say, if we at least get the second one after not getting the first one, that you can say. And if we get a 3-2, then sure, things can change. But you can't be sure of it, though. You can't be sure. Moves and passes the ball really heavy. Don't know what you're talking about. We have to change more on the pitch, but how likely? We're too far into this mess, too far. We cannot afford Osimhen wages. That's what I mean. So, I mean, we're too far into it. But are we? Like, we could sack them. We could sack Podge, Winstanley, and Stewart. We could do that. The problem is, if you sack them all at once, how do you hire them, right? Like, and who chooses who to hire then? Because, right, obviously, it's the sporting directors that chose Podge. So the sporting directors need to go for that reason. So I guess maybe more logical would be sack the sporting directors, keep Poch until the end of the season, employ new sporting directors from now until the end of the season. Maybe use Joe Shields and use him to maybe pick someone good. Try to get Michael Edwards, and then once you have a sporting director, then change the manager. Maybe that will be the smarter way of going about it. But it's so difficult. DHL says, don't want Osimhen or any £100 million player. Look at the charts. Most of the 75 million plus players flop. It's just facts. Sure, but, you know, think about the type of players. Jackson is your not £100 million player. And he's done all right in terms of output. But how much criticism has he got from Chelsea fans? Because not good enough. Players around the 40, 50 million mark are of the level of Jackson nowadays. That's what the market has come to. So what it is. Our season starts tomorrow. All right. I bloody wish. What am I seeing? It's all well and good if you're talking within each other, but then I can't follow everything you're saying. H. Naku says, Sebastian Hoeneß, Zidane. Where's Sebastian Hoeneß nowadays? Is he at Stuttgart? Am I having that right in my head? Could be remembering wrong. Zidane, Xabi Alonso, Michel, Conte, Italiano, Flick, Inzaghi, Arne Slot, Mourinho, Imanol, Peter Bosch, Amorim. Pick one, Lars. Well, if you're actually making me pick, Xabi Alonso is not even close. Maybe De Zerbi. You didn't give me De Zerbi as an option here, but maybe De Zerbi. But for me, it's Alonso or De Zerbi, the only ones. I mean, Zidane, you can cancel out completely my opinion. I'm not sure if Sebastian Hoeneß has done enough. Conte, absolutely no. Italiano Michel, I don't really know enough about. Flick, big no. Inzaghi, I don't think you're going to get. Not the worst manager in the world, though. Arne Slot, no. Jose, I mean, I'd love it for the sentiment and the nostalgia and everything else and for the feel good. But would it really benefit us? Because I know within 2 weeks of it happening, like obviously it would never happen because even if Eghbali and Jose did speak to each other about potentially Jose joining, they would already clash then, so it would never happen. But if we pretended that it would happen, within 2 weeks they would fall out and start punching each other. So for that reason, unfortunately, it can't be Mourinho. But yeah, for me, it's Xabi Alonso. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about or what you guys are thinking, but that's for me. Hey, this is the kind of question I'm here for. I know I'm wearing the wrong thing, but look at this one, eh? Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton is going to Ferrari. Okay, I know most of you probably don't care about F1, but you know, with how awful Chelsea and everything to do with Chelsea has been, my world was blown when all of a sudden I had a night shift before, right? That was the evening we played Liverpool. I was working a night shift and I woke up kind of in the midday the next day, obviously after working and then going to sleep in the morning. And then I wake up, my phone had gone crazy. Everyone's been texting me Hamilton to Ferrari. I'd read some rumors, but I didn't take them seriously. Hamilton going to Ferrari is one of the most insane things that I've ever experienced in my whole life. And I cannot wait for it. I just wish it was now, but I cannot wait for it. Obviously, I love Leclerc and I would ever so slightly prefer Leclerc to win, but at the end of the day, I'm a Ferrari fan through and through. And if whoever one of those two does well for us, amazing. That's all I care about. But it just makes it so exciting. It just makes it so exciting. But yeah, different question. Snako then says, yeah, I left the Serbi. He's well respected, but I just don't want any more Brighton or Spurs. Yeah, that's fair enough. I hear that. If the Serbi wasn't at Brighton, or then I think the Serbi would definitely be the one. But yeah. BM says, I love Leclerc and Sainz, but hella excited for 2025. See, that's my guy. Exactly. I'm buzzing. Now, I don't love Sainz, I would say, but I like Sainz. He's a good guy. And I just wish him well for the future. I think it's a bit, not harsh, it's a bit unlucky for him because they'll have to go to Sauber or Kick, whatever they're called, in 2025 already before he turns to Audi in 2026. It's a bit unfortunate for him, unless he gets the Merc seat somehow, which would be a bit crazy. But yeah, yes, mate, Ferrari, my team too. Followed F1 since I was a kid. Very excited. Go on, Mason, my guy. Ferrari has been my team since I was a kid. And I'm not sure how many of you are into F1, but can I just quickly say, I don't... Again, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't have an issue with it. I just want to say I never understand people that support F1 like for a driver. And especially when they're also football fans. Because I know it's an individual sport too, but it's a team sport. How can I pick a driver over a team? And how can I then say I'm a Hamilton fan and now I become a Ferrari fan after hating Ferrari for years? At the same time, I never hated Hamilton, but when Alonso joined, I hated him. When Vettel joined, I hated him before, right? But then they become Ferrari drivers and I love them. But yeah, I don't get why people support drivers rather than teams. I don't get it. Sorry, enough F1 talk. I know that's not what you guys are here for. If it's not Mbappe or Haaland, they ain't worth 100 mil. I don't care what anyone says. You're right. No, see, I get that. I get that. But if the market is different, if you're trying to sign players from someone and it's a decent player, good player, talented player, whatever, and that team is like, yeah, but he cost 100 million. Do you say no to everyone? Because if you say no to all of them, who are you going to get when you need a player? Do you know what I mean? It's tricky. It's tricky. If Poch gave the same interviews at Madrid that he gives at Chelsea, they would boo him at the stadium with handkerchiefs, white handkerchiefs treatment. Oh, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Mate, they wouldn't even boo him. They would literally, like, I don't know. I think they would spike his head on a... They would... spike his head. I don't know what the expression is. Like Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. That's what they'd be doing to his head. You say no, yeah, but then how do you improve? Because, I get what you mean, but then how do you improve? I totally get it. I've been a Ferrari fan since I was a kid and grew up watching it with Dad. Been mortal enemies with rival drivers until they came to Ferrari. Yeah, exactly. That's literally me. Literally me. Yeah, like you, BM. Where are you from, mate? Let me know where you're from. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, anything else we should discuss? I mean, I could bring this up quickly because this is quite funny and we could get your guys' thoughts on this. Breaking. Chelsea will target a set piece specialist in the summer with Mauricio Pochettino citing the impact of Ward-Prowse of West Ham. So be India, big up yourself. I didn't know how big or not big in F1 was in India. Just to be clear here, this tweet is talking about not a coach, a set piece coach, but a set piece player. And this is another sign for how badly run this football club is. We should be signing a player that's a great player and good at set pieces. You should never sign a player purely for being good at set pieces. No. Like West Ham can do that with James Ward-Prowse. Yeah, West Ham can do that. And Ward-Prowse is also a decent player. But we're Chelsea. We can't be doing that. Olise, is he enough of a specialist? Maybe. Maybe Vig. I'm not sure. But with Olise, let's wait, right? He's apparently a United fan, even though I've also been told that's wrong. So I don't know. But they are trying as well. If they qualify for the Champions League or for Europe, and we don't, how likely is it that we'll get him? I also don't think we can afford him, especially unless we don't sign Osimhen. But if we don't sign a striker and instead sign Olise, is that worth it? I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know. But yeah, and the last one, the last Twitter tab that I have available and open is Real Madrid have made the decision to not keep Kepa next season. He's going back to Chelsea. And this is why, when he was loaned, I said it's literally, I know, Olise's little bro is at Chelsea, yeah, that is true. This is why I said at the time, it's one of the worst moves I've ever seen. The fact that they didn't have an obligation to buy is so stupid, because we went and bought 2 different goalkeepers, 2. And now Kepa will come back, and with his ridiculous wages. And Slonina will also come back. Now Slonina won't want to start straight away, and he'll probably go on loan again and stuff. But still, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. Everyone knew that this was happening. Everyone knew it. Instead, we should just kept Kepa for another season, saved us the money for stupid Sanchez. You could have still bought Petrovic, and if Petrovic was as good as he is at the moment, he could have replaced Kepa, and then you could have just sold Kepa. But now, or loaned him out again, right? But now, you have not only Kepa, you have Kepa and Sanchez. Oh my days. Why is this club run so badly? Why is this club run so badly, guys? I just can't understand it. Like, I quickly want to talk about this as well. Let me bring this different tweet up. My apologies if I'm taking a second. Again, sorry, by the way, if I'm not always looking at the camera. Camera is quite a lot higher than my monitor here, while I'm looking at all the tweets and everything and the chat. But you know, Pies tweeted this through Simon Johnson. He said, no talks have begun over Thiago Silva's contract extension. Chelsea want to commit to faster, younger players at the back to help Pochettino's pressing game. And I stand by what I said. Thiago Silva has been less of a problem for this issue being, you know, for the pressing, for the high line, than Disasi or Badiashile have been. He's been less of an issue. Like Thiago Silva, yeah, I'm not saying he's been perfect. No one has been perfect. Look at how dreadful this team is. No one has been perfect. But he's been less of an issue than those two. So them being willing to let him go, it's just so, it irks me. It irks my soul. I would just love to stand in front of Iqbal and just smash him in the face with a bat that has barbed wire wrapped around it, like in fucking Walking Dead. Like, that's all I want to do to Iqbali, to Bowley, to Winstanley, to Stewart. I just want to smash their heads in. I just can't stand anymore how they're destroying this football club. I just can't stand anymore how so many people defend them and think what they're doing is good and okay. It just turns me inside out. Honestly, it hurts me so much. We do it like this as well, but then you can't read it, can you? Yeah, it's just home run, yeah, exactly. How if we spend 1 billion and none of our professional players can take a corner? Bro, I can pick a corner. This makes no sense. You don't have to be Beckham to put in a decent corner. To be honest, DHL, I've never been good at hitting corners, so I can't say I can. I took a decent free kick, weirdly, but corner, not my thing. But these are professional footballers. I ain't. They should be. You're 100% right. But this is not a new thing. Like, remember when we had William taking corners and Fabregas? Fabregas, one of the best passers in history. And he still could never take a decent corner. My guy was floating them in with like half a mile pace. But anyway, whoever sanctioned the Sanchez signing should have been sacked on the spot. Facts. Big facts. Mason says, well, this is so backwards. Why can't the players learn set piece on the training or their own time? The generation of football is totally different to Rooney's, Beckham's, Pirlo's, etc. The problem is now the time's kind of passed. If you want to become a set piece specialist and you're already a professional, it's too late now. You need to, as a kid, be taking footballs and just banging free kick after free kick after free kick after free kick. That's when that would really have an impact, I reckon. But yeah, I could be wrong. Pice wanted Silva out since the beginning of the season. Yeah, but you're still doing Pice a slight disservice here. I know Pice has said things like that, but not necessarily because he doesn't rate Silva, because he thought that the others would be better than they are. And Pice has now certainly changed his mind on this, trust me. I don't think this anymore. I get what you're doing, Vic, but I don't like when someone has had an opinion and has changed your opinion. Don't get hung up on that old opinion that may have been wrong, that may have been there to be ridiculed or whatever, right? Just let people improve, evolve, change their mind. It's okay to change your mind. Obviously there are certain things that you shouldn't think, regardless of changing your mind or whatever. But we're talking about football here, simple things, not like racism and sexism and things like that. There's no acceptable changing your opinion. But in football, it is, right? You can just change your mind. But yeah, it's tough. Silva has less money than Malangsar, by the way. We have both employed. Yes, we do. And we were about to terminate Malangsar's contract of £120,000 a week. Thiago's on 100. But then Le Havre, were trying to sign Malangsar. But we were, according to them, acting like complete amateurs and with a ridiculous amount of arrogance. And am I surprised? No, sounds exactly like this ownership and this directorship. That's what it is. Silva slows us down so much. While you're not wrong with that, while we had Christensen, while we had Rudiger, sure. But does he slow us down more than Disasi? Nope. Maybe more than Badiashile, sure. But he does so many other things so much better than Badiashile that's worth it. And now, if Kobo ever gets played at centre-back regularly, it's a different scenario. But currently he's injured, and when not injured, he usually plays left-back. So, do you know what I mean? Texas says, this model project is all about the future. I'm just as worried for the future of this club as the present. Yeah, because the way football works, there is no future without the present. Because if you're bad for too long, you lose so much money that you can't afford your way back to the top. And that's what we're currently experiencing. We're experiencing, we're basically going through what Liverpool had in the mid-2000s. Obviously, after they won the Champions League in 2005, kind of out of nowhere, it's kind of what we did in 2021. And then they kind of got worse and worse and worse and worse. And then they were finishing 6th and 8th. To be honest, they weren't as bad as we are now. But that's essentially what we're experiencing. So don't worry, guys. In about 15 years, we'll win 1 Champions League and 1 Premier League. So be buzzing for that. I mean, I swear Enzo wasn't set piece for Benfica, was he? I couldn't even tell you. They didn't waste 1 billion. No, they absolutely didn't, because, well, they might have had bad owners. I don't know, when did FSG get involved with Liverpool? I don't know when that happened. But yeah, less of an idiot than our people are. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to wrap this one up now. I gave you about 20 minutes of extra after Charlie left. I need to walk the dog now. So I'm going to go do that. I hope we win tomorrow. I will be back streaming tomorrow after the game from this position, from this setup. My proper setup in my new flat will be ready this week, as long as it should be. The new Wi-Fi and stuff arrives. Then on Wednesday or Tuesday, we should be streaming from home. Let's see. But yeah. Oh, okay. I've got another comment here. Juglies. How do I say your name? Dinkelberg. I'm just going to call you Dinkelberg because I have no idea how to say your first name. Sorry, Laos, but I disagree. The other centre-backs do more line-breaking passes this season, although the rest of his game is good. No, I agree with that, bro. I'm not disagreeing with this. When I said when you had Christensen and when you had Rudiger, they were also good at other things. Badiashile is good passing. Cobalt is good passing. Disasi doesn't even have great passing. But I think partly why Silva doesn't often do it also has valid reasons, because then you see a game like a Liverpool and we try so many of these line-breaking passes and lose the ball every single time. Also doesn't work. You know, it needs to be a mix of the two. I agree, bro. Thiago Silva is a bit slow. And I'm not saying he should be starting every game anymore, but I still think he should be kept at the club for another season. Of course, only if he's willing to stay. If he says himself he wants to leave, then fair dues. He's done enough in his career and for us that we shouldn't stand in his way. But if he's willing to stay, I think we should keep him. That doesn't mean he needs to start every game, but he should be staying. Like, imagine we lose Thiago Silva's experience and leadership. Like, we're already so far in the mud. Imagine how far in the mud we'll be without Thiago Silva. Appreciate you, Vic. Appreciate the great shot. There's more Q&A in the future. I will try. When I have the time, I will definitely try to get around to that more and more. Obviously, I've been poor since the summer, really. There's just the regularity of my streams. I'm gonna try really hard to get them back to more regularly. I've also been tempted by videos, but we'll see. Back on the grind. We'll get there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching. We thank you very, very much for all your questions and all your input. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody that has messaged in the chat, subscribed, liked. Appreciate you all. If you haven't already, hit that like button. That would be massively appreciated. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. Not many of you left now, but that's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we will see you next time.